My good buddies Anthony Wells and Duke Blue would love to do the song Can't You Hear Me Knockin' by the Rolling Stones, and I aim to please. But before we get into Open G land, I believe that's next to Bobby's world, let's go through the form of the song in standard tuning. You could call this the campfire version, you could call it the rhythm guitar, you could call it Shirley for all I care, but it will be very helpful in knowing what to do once we are in Open G. So the whole intro, when he's all etc., etc., you're just going to play a D. Or don't, you know, because there's no rhythm guitar. Anyways, when the chord changes, it's the first chord of the verse, and it's a C. Back to D. Back to C. And then G, D, and that's the loop. C, D, C, G, D. Help me, baby, I'm calling that the chorus. It's G, F, C, G, that's the loop. G, F, C, G, and that first G chord cuts in where you would play G in the verse. So you'd be all C, D, C, and here we go. G, F, C, G, and after you do that a whole bunch of times, you play a staccato D, which allows for the thing to happen. Of course, I'm playing open chords on the acoustic guitar for structure purposes here, but you could play bar chords on your electric guitar. I believe that's what the rhythm section in this song does, and the advantage there would be whenever you go from D to C, you can chromatically go to C, which is, they do that sometimes, so that's fun. Of course, the second chorus is way, way, way longer, and they crash out of it with the staccato D, just like the first time, and that's your chord that sums up the funky bongo. So, for structure purposes, that's a D chord as well. At some point in the saxophone solo, as it starts to ramp up, that D major chord becomes a D minor chord. It happens most definitively when you hear this really high F note out of one of the guitars. That's the note that makes D minor D minor. So for structure purposes, we can call this D minor. If you want to play around and do stuff, there are chords moving. You can play a D minor. You can take that shape and move it up 2 frets. That's an E minor. We hear a high C note in one of the guitars, which might denote a D minor 7 chord, which we can do as G7, B6, E8. There's that high C note. Back down to our E minor shape. Really kind of anything, any order of any of these chords that you like, just hang on D minor. It makes no difference whatsoever. It's the D minor section. And speaking of the sax solo, just because it's a saxophone doesn't mean it can't play the D minor pentatonic, which is the scale it's using. So if you're jamming in standard tuning and you want to, you know, noodle away there, it's D minor pentatonic, 10, 13, 10, 12, 10, 12, 10, 12, 10, 13, 10, 13, or any other position of D minor pentatonic, of course, that you might know and love. Do your thing. At the end of the song, at 7 minutes, when this riff kicks in, that's probably not open G guitar. You'll see when you get to the end of the video why it's easier to do here. I guess I'll just show you now. A5 and D4. D becomes 5. D becomes 7. And then D7 and G5 up to G7 there. But the point is, that's a D major riff now, so switch your D minor back to D major for the end of the song, I do believe. Off to Open G land. I just realized that spells open gland. For Open G, you're going to have a low D, just like drop D. Then your A string is going to go down 1 whole step. That's 2 notes to G. Your D string, your G string, and your B string are going to stay the same as normal, and your baby E string is going down 1 whole step. Again, that's 2 notes to D. And now we have a lovely big open G chord. let's do the intro verbatim. Remember, the intro is all D stuff, so whenever a D comes up later in the verse, you can do any of these things. You can come up with something similar that you like. It's D stuff. Here we go. Grab the G string and the D string on the 10th fret with one finger. Slide it down to the 9th fret before you fall down to the 7th fret. 9, 7, 10, 9, but grab the A string as well now. And then fall to 7 with those 3 strings now. Play it twice. And then the D string only becomes 9. And back down to 7. So, nice and slow. A little faster. For thing 1. Thing 2, you're going to be stationed on your A, D, and G strings in the 7th fret, and the D string is the only thing that's moving. It's going to go 7, 9, 10, 9, 7, 9, 7. Thing 2. Thing 3 is awfully similar to thing 1. It has the same second half, a different first half, but it starts the same. Grab D and G 10, but then a solitary A string 7th fret between that and the D and G 9, followed by D and G 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, followed by our A, D, and G 10 and 9, and then our thing. Nice and slow. Starting to get the hang of it. Thing 4, you'll have no problem. You're going to go 10, 9, 7 on D and G, and then 10, 9, 7 on A, D, and G, followed by our Thing 5, this one's great. Grab G and D 9, maybe use 2 fingers because you're going to give it a little bend. 7, 9, and then our, you're going to give it an epic slide down at the end, of course. I forget what number we're on, but you already know this one. It's this one. And then the last one is just the 7th fret, and that's the intro. Now remember that you know the form of the song from like 40 minutes ago in the video. Simply put, the chord progression for the verse is C, D, C, G, D. And for open tuning here, what we're going to do is C is going to be 5th fret of A, D, G, B. That's a C chord. Up to D 2 frets higher. Back down to C on the 5th fret. And then G is open those strings. And of course D is 7th fret. So just so you have your bearings, C, D, C, G, D. That's the loop, simply put. Now that you have your bearings, play your C chord. Your B string and your E string are going up 2 frets to the 7th fret. Back down to where they belong on the 5th fret, and then G string 7th fret, back down to where it belongs. So C, up to D, do your favorite thing, back to C, and then G is open, and we're gonna, rather than play D, we're gonna play a little riff here. Here's one that they do. Slide up to the 4th fret of the A string, and grab the D string 5th fret before you grab the D string 3rd fret. Give it a little bend, pull off, A string 5th fret, slide up to the A string 7th fret. So, but that's your time to mess around. Here's some more notes you can use over that G-D section. Grab the baby E string 5th fret, 3 open, right? Let's skip the B string and move to the 3rd fret of the G, D, A, and E. Used to be, of course. Sliding up to the 5th fret there. That sounds really nice. You can do any of those. You can come up with your own. So I don't even know if that's the note that it ends on, but I'm enjoying that. So yeah, find some notes you like. Do some stuff in open tuning during that G-D section. But I'd be remiss if I didn't show you a couple more possibilities for the C chord. You can do what I showed you. For the walk down effect, you can do those two fingers both times. You could do just the ring finger on the B string for the second half. That sounds cool too. Or these both fingers can migrate down to B and G, from E and B to B and G. Slightly more definitively walkie-downy. Going into the chorus, remember the first G of the chorus belongs where the G would belong in the verse, but we're becoming chorus now. So open G, no riff. For F, we're going to start with our C chord for this tuning, but we're going to add the B string 1 fret higher and the D string 2 frets higher, like that. For C, we're going to remove the ring finger and the middle finger is going to come off, like that. To open G, where you can do your riffage. You can do this thing, A string 4th fret to D string 5th fret, or whatever you like. F, C, G, G, F, C, G. And then when the band hits D, you can hit D if you want, before you do your 10, 9, 7, 10, 9, 7 on the G and the D strings. As things start to move more in the long chorus, you can grab the 12th fret of the strings in question for our 1-finger chords here. That's a G. 2 frets lower is an F. Let's go down to our C and let's do the cowboy thing just like we did with our D. The D string is going to go 5, 7, 5, 8, 7, 5. So then we got 12s, 10s, here's one, open, slide up to 4, open, 5. Here's the funky bongo thing. Grab A10 and D9, slide it up 1 fret, then do the exact inverse thing, D9 and G10, and then we're going to grab 12s on A, D, and G, and then the inverse thing again, D9, G10. Alright, this part's a chameleon. The part that I had pegged as D minor, you know, E minor, maybe D minor 7 and so forth, that totally fits. You can do that. But here's what I think I hear the open G guitar doing. Do 5, 6, 7 on G, B, E. Move it up 2 frets. And then 10, 10, 10. Back down to the second one. So 5, 6, 7. 7, 8, 9. 10, 10, 10. 7, 8, 9. Or you just play it safe and just play D. Hang out on your nice ringy outy like a D chord, but with the open now D string. That's cool. That's creepy. Do your favorite thing there. But I think at the end of that section, before the guitar takes over the saxophone solo, it's 10, 10, 10 on the D, G, B strings, F, right? And 12, 12, 12, G. But really, anything fits there. But certainly during the guitar solo, which again, D minor pentatonic, the tuning messes that up, right? So maybe on your other guitar. But we certainly have a guitar, the rhythm guitar, just playing D. 3, 4, 1. But we can do the signature solo thing that happens for the whole ending part. Grab D, 10, 11, 12, G10, give it a little bend, and land back on D12. You can even add the B string to that 10th fret until it becomes G and B on the 12th fret down to 10s. So, then, in any order you please. And we can even do the super cool thing at the end. Grab the A string 7th fret with your pinky finger and the D string 4th fret with your pointer finger. D string becomes 5. D string becomes 7. I'm going to switch my fingers to middle ring for A, D. And then we're going to play D7, G5, like that, and end it on G7. So, until the end, when it goes D7, G5, G7 for the end. Wow, that was hard. That's it for this one from me anyways. You know, maybe not note for note for note, but hopefully now you have a better idea of where everything goes so you can do your own thing within the correct bounds. I hope that was fun and helpful. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time with more stuff. Goodbye.